At this stage of your career, how do you measure your own success?
How do I measure my own success? I have to admit, we just talked about social media, that what is fun is that you have a direct feedback loop from your audience on Twitter. So I do read Twitter and their comments, because the great thing is that people that are posting on Twitter don't think that you're reading it. So it's the purest feedback you can get, more than I get from my family or from my agents or from anyone ever. The most honest opinion is Twitter. And what is great about it too, which you always forget, is kind of the innocence and the lack of cynicism with which a general audience outside of Hollywood consumes your stuff. Because you are in this bubble of other storytellers and filmmakers, and you spend your life in that, and you develop your stuff in that, and they test view it. You're always in this mindset of what is new, what is cutting edge, what is unpredictable, blah, 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 all that stuff. And then you put it out there, and you realize that the scene that you thought was the most generic and you were slightly embarrassed by, people get so excited about. And I did an episode of Fear the Walking Dead, and there was someone's head getting chopped off, some zombie's head getting chopped off. And that is suddenly the most exciting moment for everybody. And it reminds me of this pure joy of consuming cinema that I think I threw out the window and sacrificed when I went to film school, because that was taken from me, the actual watching a movie as a movie and enjoying it as a movie, and not always thinking, am I cool and intellectual in liking this or not liking this? You either liked something or you didn't like something. So that's always a real interesting thing to kind of get that reaction. So a lot of how I judge my success is how thrilled or enthusiastic are people on Twitter as individuals. I don't even know if there are 10 people of them out there or 1,000 people. It almost doesn't matter, because it goes back to why you originally wanted to tell stories, to evoke a genuine emotion in someone. If it's just that one person that says, my favorite movie is, and then it's my movie, which seems to happen with, I did that as a test, to just type in some random indie movie that I didn't make, to just see if it's somebody's favorite movie. And it is. You almost can't put a movie title into Twitter that someone has not said it's their new favorite movie. And that's the most beautiful thing in the world, to think that I, not because I'm special or a great filmmaker, but just by the virtue of having made a movie, I created someone's favorite movie. That's almost enough of a success to justify wanting to make movies all over again.
Do you respond, you said? You do respond?
No.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No. I've done that at the very beginning, because I thought, oh, how cool would it have been when I was young, that the filmmaker actually responds. Yeah, that would have blown my mind. So I did that in the beginning, but it never ends well, because you can't live up to that, which I totally understand, that for an audience it's hard to have that contact and then not have that contact anymore. So then you're getting, in that case, I'm still getting Christmas emails from someone I was in touch with 2010. And the first years I still wrote back, but then how do you, So, and especially with negative stuff, like it's always a mistake to respond in any way to negative stuff, because you can't win, Other than, maybe you could, if you wanted to respond, you could respond positively and say, good point, I see your criticism. But to defend yourself is always a mistake. And in film school, we were prepped really well for that, because we made our short films, and then we presented them to the class, and we had to sit in front of the screen and kind of look at your class, and you weren't allowed to respond. They would throw all their criticism at you, and your only exercise was to say, thank you for the criticism, blah, 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 not justify anything, not say anything. That was the greatest prep in the world, because in real life, you also don't get to. I mean, on Twitter, you might, if you wanted to, you could reply to 2 or 3 people, but there are tens of thousands of other people whom you don't get to respond to. Like your thing that you made and put out there and ask them to donate 2 hours of their lifetime to, has to speak for itself. You don't get any director's commentary on that stuff, or any Q&A afterwards where you get to justify stuff. So you better make sure that you say everything that you needed to say in the main piece. That's why, again, why test screenings to me, among friends or among a small group of people, are so important, because there you still get to react. But once you shoot it out into the world, that's it, you're done. And it's really hard. It's really hard to have people, for example, misunderstand stuff and say stuff about your movie where you're like, you misunderstand the entire, and some of them love the movie, but understand it completely wrong. And you want to say like, no, that's not at all, but you don't get to it. That's kind of their privilege. You had the privilege that they listened to you for 2 hours, and now it's their privilege that for the rest of your life they're allowed to say whatever they want about your movie, and you have to take it. Whether you listen to it or not is a different thing, but you don't get to reply. That seems fair to me in the end.
Is that common to have a class in film school where you're sort of allowed to be, like the peanut gallery, so to speak, is allowed to kind of throw food at you a little bit?
At the film school I went to, it was.
That's very progressive.
From the very, yeah, maybe.
This is in Germany?
No, it was here.
Here, oh,
here
okay.
in LA, yeah. And it was good that we weren't allowed. I remember that one, in the beginning, maybe there were classes where we were still allowed to answer. And one of my fellow directors, sweetest guy, super talented, said the sentence that ended his film school career. And he said to someone saying something, oh, that's what I was going for, that's what I was wanting to do, but I didn't think that my cinematographer and my editor were capable of it. And you just could feel the silence. And for the next 2.5 years, nobody wanted to work with him. And I know that's not how he meant it.
Right,
he meant it in terms of that it could be done in the time frame that the school gives us,
sure,
with the equipment that this. But there, he didn't get a second shot at it. He was like, he had from then on out, were the least talented cinematographers, the ones that no one else wanted to team up with. Blah, 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 blah. It echoed through. So I was always kind of glad that the mandate for the other lesson was you don't get to respond, because then you can't put your foot in your mouth, at least.